Kathy took a sip of wine and looked at the clock on the wall. It was 1 o'clock on Saturday. She did not normally drink this early and alone, but this was a special occasion. She stared at the thin red box on the coffee table. She had received it last Saturday. She had received many others over the years. Usually, they were received with great delight. This one was different. This was not a happy one. She picked up the box and went into her bedroom. She placed the box on the bed and opened her closet. She rummaged through the shoes and boxes of keepsakes she kept on the floor in the rear of her closet until she found shoebox-sized plastic case. She opened the lid and saw the row of boxes inside. There were many white boxes, 2 were silver, 1 gold, for blue, and 1 black box. She placed the red box at the rear of the line of thin boxes in the shoebox. She wondered why she kept the box and the contents inside. For some reason, she could never part with them. Randomly, she picked up the 3rd box and opened it, the contents of which were a card and a CD. She slipped the CD into a player, and the tender melody of "When I Fall in Love" by the Letterman came out of the speakers. She picked up the card and read what was written on it. The card did not say who it was from or to whom it was given. There was no need for it. She knew who had sent it to her. She had received it at her work along with a large bouquet of flowers. All the girls in the office gathered around Kathy to see who sent her such a beautiful arrangement. She smiled confidently as she opened the box, took out the CD, and slipped it into the player on her desk. The girls started teasing Kathy. "Who is this guy sending you flowers and love songs at work?" Some wanted to know what was on the card that came with the letter. Kathy waited for the appropriate part of the song to start reciting what was on the card. When the right place in the song came, she started to read. "When I give my heart, I give it completely, or I'll never fall in love. And the moment I can feel that, you feel that way too, is when I fall in love with you." The girls got quiet while she read the words printed on the card. When she was done and the music stopped, the girls started in again. One coworker named Grace said, "This is a special guy. I'm jealous. Does he have a brother?" As Kathy was once more listening to the music, she looked up to see Grace absent-mindedly moving the flowers about. She quietly commented to Kathy, "You have received a wonderful gift today, from a special man." "Thank you. The flowers are beautiful, aren't they?" replied Kathy. Grace looked at her surprised and was about to speak. Instead, she turned and walked away. On it went till the girls finally went back to work. Kathy, for the first time, thought that maybe she did have something special. She was sure it would be if it weren't for John Williams. John was her first love. He was her first boyfriend. He was the boy who took her to the prom. He was the boy who took her virginity when she was a junior in high school. They made love all the way through the last 2 years of high school. The last time was the night before he left to go to college. He was always in the back of her mind. He always had a little piece of her heart that made it impossible to commit to another man completely. After graduation, John went to Stanford in California to study medicine. Kathy went to a community college in her home state of Florida. At first, they exchanged phone calls and letters. After a while, the letters stopped and the phone calls became less frequent to be replaced by emails. Soon the emails ended as well. After a while, Kathy dropped out of school and took a job with Allstate Insurance Company. Now she worked 9 to 5 sitting at a computer. She answered phones, sold insurance, typed letters, and any other duties that fell her way. Her day consisted of the same routine: get up, go to work, and come home. It was not satisfying, but it paid the bills. The only relief was her nights out with her friend Lisa. She kept hoping to hear from John. Then she heard from some of John's friends that he was dating a pre-med student at college. She now knew why all contact had been broken off. For weeks she was depressed and cried herself to sleep every night. Yet she still had a dream of what could have been. What would her life be like if John came back? She still had expectations of her knight in white armor returning to sweep Kathy out of her boring existence to enjoy the life of a doctor's wife. Kathy would then become Mrs. Dr. John Williams. She let her fantasy life as well as her real-life self-esteem center around John Williams. He became almost a mythological figure that no mere human could match. As weeks became months and John did not return, she tried to put him out of her mind and move on. Yet even if she did not realize it, he was always there. Kathy had always been an attractive girl. Not a beauty in a classic sense, but she had an earthy sensuality that drew men to her. Even when she was dating John, it did not stop other boys from trying to hit on her. She stood 5'5" tall. She had long brown hair, usually parted down the middle of her head and flipped back towards her face just under her chin. She possessed flawless olive-colored skin with brown eyes that sparkled when she laughed and belied her Italian heritage. Long, lean dancer's legs finished off the package. When viewed together, it was a very enjoyable sight. After she was sure that John was out of her life for good, she had a number of relationships with men. Only one turned sexual and lasted for 5 months before she broke it off. Incredibly, she felt guilty, as she was still carrying a torch for John. Her guilt over what she considered cheating broke up most of her relationships with men. Her reputation was not that of an easy score. She was 25 years old when she met Tom. He was not like all the other men she had dated in the past. Tom had enlisted in the army when he was 18. 6 years later, including 1 tour each in Iraq, Germany, and Afghanistan in that order, he separated from the military. He was an infantryman and had seen his share of action. Upon returning home to Florida, he opened a small automotive repair shop not too far from Kathy's work. Tom thought it was fate when he saw Kathy and her dancer's legs walk into the shop. He was sitting behind his desk in his office at the rear of the shop, and she did not see him. She was with her best friend Lisa, who she had driven to work that morning. She had on a white low-cut top with black polka dots. A short black miniskirt and black high heels finished her look. Tom was mesmerized. He had never seen a woman as exquisite as this. "Hello," Kathy called out. "Is anybody here?" Tom walked out of the office and said, "Can I help you, miss?" Kathy explained that her car would not start, and it was in the parking lot of the insurance company right down the street. It was around closing time, and she knew he must want to go home. She hoped he would be like all the other men she had met in her life and would do anything she wanted if she showed a little of what she had. As she was telling him where her car was, she accidentally dropped her keys from her hand and bent over to pick them up. This caused her to roll forward in her blouse to give him a good view. When she stood back up, she knew she had him by the look of desire on his face. She laughed to herself that this was too easy. He could barely get his eyes off her cleavage. When he finally tore his eyes away from her cleavage, she gave him a pout with her lips and asked if he would help her. Tom looked at those soft, full lips and wondered what kissing them would be like. Tom stuttered when he told her that he would take the tow truck and pick up her car and bring it to the shop to look at it. As the two girls walked behind him to the truck, they gave each other knowing looks. They had both used their looks to manipulate men many times. He walked her to the passenger door and helped her manage the high step to get into the cab, getting a good look at her sculpted calves and thighs. He received the same show from Lisa when he helped her in the truck as well. When Tom got in the truck and started down to her car, it gave Kathy a chance to give him the once-over. She noticed his muscular arms. His muscles rippled when he shifted gears. She could tell he had short but muscular legs by the tightness of his pants. He had black hair cut short and combed straight back. She noticed he had kind green eyes and full soft kissable lips when he turned to give her a reassuring smile. She could feel an attraction and thought it might be fun to play with this one for a while. She was sure it would not go too far, as he was a grease jockey and his job was not up to her standards. Yet, it might be fun for as long as it lasted. When they arrived at the parking lot, Tom opened the hood on her late model Camry. After looking inside for a while, he noticed that the ground wire had come loose. A few turns with a screwdriver and Tom told her to try to start the car. Much to Kathy's surprise, it started right up. Kathy gave Tom a huge smile and he smiled back. He was furiously thinking of something to say, trying something, some way to spend some more time with this attractive woman, but could not come up with anything. Kathy got out of the car and asked, "How much do I owe you for the quick fix?" Tom would not take anything for this small service. He said, just getting that big smile was payment enough. Kathy looked into those green eyes, walked to this handsome mechanic's side and gave him a kiss on the cheek as she said, "Thank you so much." When she backed away, she could see his face turn 3 shades of red. As she walked to the car door, an idea came to her. Quickly turning to face him, she asked if he would like dinner at her place tomorrow night as payment for the repair. With widened eyes and a smile, he replied, "Yes, I would like that. A lot." For a second, Kathy thought about John and had an inkling of regret, but as soon as it came, it went away. She had a good feeling about this man who was a stranger no more than an hour ago. She felt she could trust him. She actually found him intriguing. She had a hunch he would not be a mechanic for long, and her hunches were rarely wrong. Taking a business card from her purse, she smiled and handed it to him, saying, "Call me tomorrow, and I will give you directions to my apartment." As he took the card, she caressed his cheek with her other hand and said, "Thank you again for helping me today." She turned to leave and put a little more sway into her hips as she walked back to her car. When she looked back, she was pleased to see her little display had worked. Not a muscle moved as he watched her walk away. She smiled once again and drove off down the street. Finally, Tom regained his composure and smiled to himself as he got into his truck. He would definitely be calling her tomorrow. In fact, he could hardly wait. Lisa tore into Kathy when she left the parking lot. "What are you thinking? You hardly know this guy. What if he's an axe murderer or something like that? Besides, I know you. A mechanic is not the type of guy you typically date." Kathy was unruffled. "You know where he works. If anything happens, you can tell the police who I was with. Besides, I am sure he's okay." Reluctantly, Lisa agreed. "You have to promise to call me when the date is over to make sure you were okay." Lisa quipped, "Getting the juicy details is just a bonus." Both girls laughed as they sped down the street. She told him to be at her apartment at 7 p.m. He was there at 6:45 but waited outside till 7 before entering her apartment building. He did not want to seem too eager even if he really couldn't wait to see her again. He knocked on the door and waited for the door to open. Kathy was at the stove stirring the pot of sauce she had made to go with dinner when she heard the knock. She went in the mirror on the wall to check on her outfit one last time and waited. She smiled as Tom knocked again. Outside, he was wondering where was she? Had she had a change of heart? Anxiety overcame him, and he knocked again. At the third knock, Kathy smiled again to herself. Making the guys wait always took some of the confidence and swagger out of them. Kathy called out, "Be right there." Tom was relieved when the door swung open and Kathy was there smiling at him. She invited him in, and he gave her a bottle of wine and a small bouquet of flowers. She thanked him for the gifts and made a big deal about the flowers and placed them in a vase on the table where they would be eating. He took in her beauty as she cut the flower stems and placed them in the vase. She was wearing a white blouse which buttoned up the front with the 3 top buttons undone. The blouse was tucked into a pair of tight black jeans. She was barefoot. Somehow she seemed so erotic walking barefoot in her tight jeans that Tom was suddenly filled with desire for this woman that he had really known for only a few moments in time. Dinner was chicken cacciatore with spaghetti. It was made with her own homemade sauce. The food was delightful. It had been a long time since he had a home-cooked meal. As good as the food was, the conversation was enchanting. They told each other about where they had been and what they had done and where they wanted the future to take them. Tom learned that Kathy had some college and an artistic bent. She took some art courses in college and was quite good at watercolors. In fact, she had some well-done pieces hanging in her small home. Kathy listened to stories about his time in the army, some of them graphic enough to make Kathy wince. She could hear the pain in his voice, and it brought tears to her eyes. She found that he was not a mechanic in a small shop, but that he was the owner of 3 shops around their town. He had signed contracts with one of the large auto rental companies to provide maintenance and repair work for their fleet of cars. He had contracts with the U.S. government to provide them with similar services as well as the insurance company Kathy worked for, plus others. That was the largest shop and had 10 bays in it. One shop did nothing but customizing work and the other, the one she walked into, worked on late-model high-end automobiles like Ferraris and Lamborghinis. It was his favorite shop as it was the first one he opened. He had a small office in the rear where he took care of all the accounting work for all 3 shops. He stayed late to do some paperwork when she walked in. Usually he locked up the shop before starting and did not know why he had forgotten that day. Tom told Kathy he was very happy to have forgotten. He told her where he lived. He was proud of the 3-bedroom house he had purchased on the outskirts of town 2 years prior. It seemed that Kathy's hunch was correct. They ate dinner, drank wine, talked and drank more wine, played some games while drinking still more. The evening was drawing to a close and Kathy made the bold move of asking Tom to stay a little longer. He wasn't sure what a little longer meant, but he quickly came to his own decision. Tom went to Kathy, took her in his arms, and gave her a passionate kiss, then backed away and told her he could not stay. Kathy whispered, "Don't you like me?" Tom replied, "Yes, Kathy, I do like you. In fact, I like you a lot. But I see more in you. I know I have only known you for a short time, but I see a future for us. I want to get to know you better. I want to take it slow so we both can know what we will be getting into. I don't want a sexual relationship to complicate things. Besides, anticipation will just make it better if we do decide to take it to another level. Do you understand?" Kathy had never been turned down before, but this did not feel like a turn down. This was a promise of something more. It was for a chance at something solid and real. For the first time in a long time, she felt good about a man. This man knew what he wanted, and she felt sure he wanted her. He wanted to make sure she wanted him. She took a leap of faith and told him, "Not many men who turn me down get a second chance. You, however, you just might be the one to get another chance. Oh, and just so you know, I do understand," she added. That night, Tom went home and went to bed. He tried to sleep, but sleep would not come. All he could think about was the beautiful woman he had turned down tonight. His mind was occupied by visions of what they might be doing right at this moment. He tossed and turned, thinking what a fool he must be to turn her down. Sleep was a long time coming. Kathy got dressed for bed, but first she had to keep her promise to Lisa. Kathy told Lisa all about the evening and the chemistry they shared. Kathy then revealed, "I kind of asked him to stay over." "You asked him to stay over? Have you lost your mind? You just met him today." Lisa thundered. Kathy groaned, "Don't worry, he turned me down." Lisa was more shocked that he said no. Lisa joked, "He must be gay." Kathy laughed, "Not from the goodnight kiss he gave me. I can definitely confirm he is not gay." Tom tossed and turned while Kathy slept like a baby. She did not feel like she was alone. She felt like he was there with her. In a sense, he was. Somehow he had gotten into her heart. She could still feel his strong arms around her and felt safe enveloped in them. Her lips still tingled with the passion of their kiss. It took 4 months for Tom to come to the realization that he was in love with Kathy. She was sure much sooner. 1 year later, Tom and Kathy were married. It was a small service with only a few friends and relatives attending. They moved into Tom's house on Kensington Street and started their life together. The CD stopped playing. Kathy did not seem to notice. She was too wrapped up in her pleasant memories. She ejected the CD and slipped it into the case along with the card. She bypassed the next 2 white cases and went for the gold case. The gold and silver cases were special. They held the fondest memories for her. She opened the box and took out the CD and the card. She had received the box on the morning of her wedding day. She, along with her bridesmaids, was getting ready for Kathy's big day. The doorbell rang and one of her bridesmaids opened the door. It was a FedEx carrier delivering the gold box. She took it to Kathy. They searched all over until they found a guest with a small portable CD player. They all watched as she opened the gold box and put the CD into the player. Kathy started reading the card and then pressed play. An old tune by the Times called "So Much in Love" started playing. Soon Kathy read the lines on the card. "When we walk down the aisle together, we will vow to be together till we die. So much love have we too. Just can't wait to say I do. So in love, so much in love." Tears welled up in Kathy's eyes when Lisa started yelling, "Don't start crying, it will ruin your makeup." Lisa waved her hands in Kathy's face to blow cool air across her. One of the bridesmaids cracked, "With a card and song like that, if you can't make it down the aisle, I won't mind filling in for you." Kathy snorted, "Don't you even think about it. I sure as hell will make it to that altar. I don't know why I ever made you a bridesmaid." They all started laughing at that, and the makeup crisis was averted. When Kathy got to the church, right before the bridal march started, she peeked into the church to see Tom standing at the altar talking to his best man. He looked so good in his tuxedo. She was filled with pride for her man and wondered how she ever got this lucky. She made a vow to do her best to make him as happy as possible. Kathy was smiling when she thought about how she felt just before her wedding. Then the smile vanished as she realized how badly she had let Tom down. She certainly did not make good on that promise. She slowly shook her head, wondering how she could have hurt him so badly. What should have been a wonderful memory no longer was. Kathy quickly slipped the card and CD back into the gold box and placed it back in its place among the row of boxes. Kathy's eyes went past the next 2 white boxes to the first of the silver boxes. She opened the box and read the words written inside. She slipped the CD into the player and Frank Sinatra's smooth voice filled the room. She remembered when Tom came home from work on their first wedding anniversary. She had been getting ready all day. First, she went to the salon to get her hair and nails done. Kathy also had a Brazilian wax. He was always pestering her about getting one. Having herself waxed clean was going to be his anniversary present. He had been hinting to her that he would like the bald look on her. She heard him come in the house and call to her. She walked to the top of the stairway and was still putting her earrings on when he came around the corner. She had taken 2 steps down the flight of stairs when he saw her. He stopped dead in his tracks and stared at her with his mouth open. As she got halfway down the stairs, he actually dropped the silver box and the card and CD spilled out. He was mesmerized by the way she looked as she walked down the stairs. He did not move until she was on the last step. He remembered the silver box and knelt down to pick it, and it spilled contents off the floor, then looked up at her from his knees. She had 4-inch black pumps on her feet. His eyes traveled up her legs until he got to mid-thigh where the hem of her little black dress started. He continued up to her waist, then to her neck. The neckline was low cut to show generous amounts of cleavage. Thin spaghetti straps continued to her shoulders. Her hair was piled high on top of her head. Her brown eyes sparkled, delighted with the effect she had on her husband. When he stood in front of her, she saw he had the silver box in his left hand and a jewelry box in his right. He led her to the couch where they sat down. He handed her the jewelry box and watched her open it and said, "Happy anniversary, my love." When she opened the box, she squealed with delight at the 16-inch diamond choker necklace. She hugged him and made sure he felt her body, another surprise for him tonight. She took it out and asked him to put it on for her. When he was done, she stood, went to a mirror in the room and looked at herself, turning left and right. It was the most beautiful gift she had ever received. She turned to see her husband, who was looking at her with joy. There was nothing that gave him more pleasure than making her happy. Seeing her like this filled his heart. He then opened the box and took out the CD and put it in the player. "May I have this dance, beautiful lady?" Taking her in his arms, he beamed. "This is the most appropriate gift I have ever given to you. You are so beautiful tonight." Frank Sinatra's rendition of The Way You Look Tonight played on the player the same way it played today in Kathy's bedroom. "Someday when I'm awfully low, when the world is cold, I will feel a glow just thinking of you. And the way you look tonight. Yes, you're lovely with your smile so warm, and your cheeks so soft. There is nothing for me but to love you. And the way you look tonight." They danced quietly in each other's arms, bathed in the glow of love they had for each other. When the song ended, Tom begged Kathy, "Why don't we just skip dinner out and retire to the bedroom?" Kathy replied, "No way, Buster. I spent a lot of time and your money getting ready for this night, and we are going out." Tom once again suggested, "Honey, all I need is you, and the hell with dinner. We can eat afterward." Kathy responded, "Wasn't it you who once told me that it would be better to wait and let the anticipation build? Then it would be better." Kathy smirked. Tom mumbled, "No, I am not right all the time about that anticipation thing." Kathy laughed. "No, you were right then, and waiting until after we go out would be right tonight too." Tom laughed at that. He knew this was one fight he would lose, and fighting with his beautiful, sexy wife was the last thing he wanted tonight. Previously, Tom told Kathy about his plans for the night, and she made sure they did all he had planned to do. First, they had a delicious dinner at an expensive Japanese steakhouse. After dinner, they went to a local comedy club and stayed through 2 comedians. Then they went to a small piano bar where they danced, had a few drinks, and some intimate conversation. On the ride home, they could not keep their hands off each other. They both realized the anticipation thing really worked. Kathy once again found herself smiling at the memory. They had spent most of that night making sweet, gentle love. That night was Kathy's favorite memory of her marriage to Tom. It was the perfect night. Kathy stood and went at her jewelry box. She opened it and took out the diamond choker. It had meant so much to her that night. She held the necklace and brought it across her lips. A tear came down her cheek. She returned the necklace to the jewelry box and went back to the bed and put the card and CD back in its place in the row of boxes. She skipped the next white box and went to the second silver box. She placed the CD in the player, and Nat King Cole's satiny voice started singing Unforgettable. She remembered the night of her 2nd anniversary. It was a Saturday, and he had to go out to run a small errand. Even though she knew he had made arrangements to go out again, she had other plans. She was waiting in the living room for him in a pale blue see-through negligee. She was totally bare underneath. As the front door opened, she suddenly had the thought that she hoped Tom didn't bring home a friend with him while she stood there practically naked in her living room. She did not have to worry. Bring a friend home was not in Tom's mind tonight. Once again, she got the response she was hoping for. When Tom saw her, he stopped and took in the sight of his sexy wife, for all intents and purposes standing on his living room rug. Kathy saw 2 boxes, one in each of Tom's hands, same as last year. He walked towards her, placing the boxes on an end table on his way. As he reached for his wife, she put her hands on his chest and gently pushed him back. He had a questioning look on his face as she did this. Kathy told him, "The boxes first, sweetie, then the sweets." Smiling, he turned to get the boxes and returned to his wife. He gave her the jewelry box, and she opened it. It contained a diamond bracelet and earrings to match the diamond choker necklace he gave her last year. "Honey, be a dear and put these on for me, please," giggled Kathy. She groaned at first, then gave him a playful swat, saying, "You have one more box to give me." Tom gave her the silver box. She opened it and gave him the CD. She did not even read the card. She just gave him the CD to put in the player. As King Cole's beautiful lyrics played, she grabbed Tom and gave him a smoldering kiss. Neither one of them heard much of the song as they made love right there in front of the fireplace. 2 hours later, they called out for a delivery pizza. Their anniversary meal was pizza and wine. Tom beamed. "This is even better than last year. It's the perfect meal after a strenuous workout." Kathy chimed in, "Yes, it is." Maybe we could do a repeat of the workout. What do you think? They repeated the workout and the pizza and wine meal many times in the months to come. It was not until the next morning that Kathy read the card that came with the CD. There in Tom's block-style printing were the words he wanted her to remember. Unforgettable in every way. And forevermore, that's how you'll stay. That's why, darling, it's incredible that someone so unforgettable thinks that I am unforgettable too. Kathy thought about that night. She thought about the pale blue negligee. It had been lost in the move, never to be seen again. She wished she had it now. If she did have it, she knew it would bring back more of the special memories of that night. She put the card and CD away. Now she went in the last white box, just before the blue boxes. Those awful blue boxes. The blue boxes with the pain inside could wait. She would play the last of the white boxes first. This was the last box before the loss of innocence in the marriage. At least it was for Tom, not for Kathy. She had been seeing another man. Not just any man, it was the man of her dreams, her first lover. Yes, John had returned. 5 months had passed since the night of her second anniversary. That night they had shared their love for one another. Unknown to Tom, his worst nightmare became a reality. Kathy's fantasy man had returned. He had been back for 2 months. Dr. Williams was setting up practice and needed insurance. He had come to the office and was speaking with another associate when Kathy walked by. John noticed her first and called out, "Kathy, is that you?" Kathy turned to look at John and her heart started to flutter. All the old feelings came thundering back. It was like he had never left. "John, when did you get back?" she exclaimed. John stood and gave Kathy a big hug, which she returned. John told her, "You haven't changed since high school. You are still a beautiful woman. You have become even more handsome, if that were possible." He smiled and suggested, "Why don't we get lunch and catch up on old times?" Kathy happily replied, "I would love to. Let me go to my desk and get my purse." They went off arm in arm. She did not notice the disapproving look she got from most of the other women who worked in the office. They all noticed how she seemed to swoon for this guy. All thoughts of her husband went out the window. If only Kathy could see what they saw. They saw trouble ahead. All of them had met Tom over the past 3 years, and they all liked him. Many were jealous of what Kathy had and wanted it themselves. They would watch and see what developed. One of these women was Grace. If Kathy messed up, she would not feel bad about replacing Kathy in Tom's life. She would wait and see what developed. Grace felt if Kathy screwed up, she would happily take her place. Kathy willingly went to lunch with John. She told herself that it was just to catch up with an old friend. She knew in the deepest recesses of her mind that if John came on to her, she would go with him. She would betray her marriage and her husband without so much as a second thought. The fantasy of John she had built in her mind was much too enticing to resist. She would not admit it, even to herself, yet still she knew it. When Kathy got back from her lunch with John, her friend Lisa met her and ushered her into the ladies' room and locked the door. Lisa asked her friend directly, "What are you, a married woman, doing with that handsome guy?" Kathy stammered, "It was only lunch with an old friend from school, nothing more." Lisa didn't seem so sure. The gossip started as soon as the two of you left the office, and some of what was said you would not like. Everyone thought that it was more than just lunch with an old friend. Kathy assured Lisa that is all it was. It was nothing other than lunch with a high school classmate. Lisa felt relieved. Kathy was her best friend, and she had nursed her through some tough times with a former lover who jilted her. Tom was the first man that treated her like a queen, and she knew he would never hurt her. Lisa informed Kathy, "If you were smart, you won't let any feelings develop for this other guy." "What was his name anyway?" she asked. Kathy sheepishly told her, "He's John Williams." Lisa exploded, "The John Williams who cheated on you, then left you years ago without as much as a word? This is the guy you went to lunch with? You told me if you ever saw him again you would slap him in the face, not give him a hug and a kiss." Kathy barked, "I did not kiss him." Lisa sneered, "You're a liar. I was looking out the window when you got back and saw the lip lock you put on that ass. You see him one time, and now you are lying to me." Kathy sat down on one of the upholstered chairs in the ladies' restroom. "I'm sorry for lying to you. I couldn't help myself." He brought out the desire I have always felt for him. Kathy commiserated. Lisa responded, "You are going to screw up your marriage if you don't stop this immediately. I am your best friend and will stand behind you in almost anything you do. However, this one thing I will not support you on." Kathy told Lisa, I know you're right. I promise I won't do anything to put my marriage in jeopardy." This statement mollified Lisa, but she still had her doubts if she would actually take her advice. Sadly, Kathy was not strong enough to fight off the vision of a knightly John Williams. Lisa felt she had done all she could and said, "Let's get back to work." For the first few weeks, it was lunches and pleasant conversation, nothing more. Soon came a drink after work if Tom had to stay late. A few weeks of drink dates followed. John was smooth. He was not rushing things. He wanted Kathy back. He was not sure if what he felt was love, or maybe he just wanted to get into her pants. He was in no rush. He was sure he would be doing the horizontal mambo with Kathy soon. If love came out of it, fine. If not, it would be a pleasant interlude until something better came along. The fact that she was married meant nothing to him. After a while, the drink dates became hot makeout sessions. Next, there were hot makeout sessions with lots of touching and groping. They were acting just like high school kids with a crush on each other. She was not sure if she could have gone all the way if Tom hadn't had to go to a training session in Pittsburgh. It wasn't just a training session. It was a chance to meet people in the industry, schmooze a little, and make new contacts. It was good business. Tom asked Kathy to go with him, but she said she could not get time off. She could see he was disappointed, but he understood. Did she not want to go on purpose? Was it an excuse to see John? She wouldn't admit it, but that was the reason. While Tom was away, John and Kathy could really catch up on old times. It was to be a 5-day conference. It would start Monday morning and end Friday night. Tom's flight would leave Sunday at noon, and he would arrive back home at 3 p.m. on Saturday. It would give the two would-be lovers 5 days and 6 nights to do whatever two willing adults wanted to do. Unbeknownst to Tom, Kathy took 5 vacation days the week he would be gone to spend more time with John. The betrayal was complete. All that was left to do was to have sex. As soon as the computer confirmed that Tom's flight had left the airport, Kathy called John to come over to the house on Kensington Street to complete the betrayal of her marriage. John did spend 6 nights and 5 days in Tom's bed. He also spent much of that time in Tom's wife as well. The sex was just as Kathy imagined it would be. John had become an accomplished lover. As a serial womanizer, he had become a predator. Wine-filled nights, ecstasy, and other drugs befuddled Kathy's mind. By Friday evening, John's seduction and conquest of Kathy was complete. Of course, Kathy's cheating actually started the day John walked into the insurance agency office. It only took him 5 days to capture Kathy's heart, while it took Tom months. Of course, John's conquest was accomplished with lots of sex and drugs. Tom's did not. By Saturday morning, Kathy was planning to leave Tom to be with John. John would be closing on his new home in 2 weeks. He was living in a small hotel room until the closing took place. Kathy would have to live with Tom until the closing. John left at 9 a.m. on Saturday morning. 1 hour later, someone knocked on the front door. Kathy answered it, and it was a local florist with a large bouquet of flowers. There was also a white box to go along with the flowers. Tom must have planned this a week in advance. Kathy tipped the driver and sent him on his way. She opened the box and took out the card and the CD inside. She put the CD in the player, and she was surprised that it was a country tune. This was not the first time Tom sent her a country song in the boxes. However, as she listened to the music, she knew the song fit perfectly. It was a song called 6 Days on the Road. It started like this. Well, I pulled out of Pittsburgh, rolling down the eastern seaboard, and ended with, well, my rig's a little old, but that don't mean she's slow. My hometown's coming in sight. If you think I'm happy, you're right. 6 days on the road, and I'm gonna make it home tonight. Kathy wondered how in the hell he found that CD. She knew he would be happy to be home with her again. She knew he would want sex right away. Kathy hoped she could pull it off and not let Tom know. She hoped she could keep it a secret for 2 weeks. The limo pulled into the driveway at 4 p.m., 6 hours after she had received the flowers. Tom got out, paid, and tipped the driver and put his suitcases on the porch. Tom was excited to see his wife. What surprise would she have for him when he entered the house? Would she be wearing a new negligee, some kind of sexy outfit, or maybe no outfit at all? The images of his wife that danced in his mind were more than he could stand. Anticipation had worked at magic again. He opened the door and was surprised to see Kathy sitting on the couch in the living room. She was wearing a t-shirt and old shorts. She got up and went to him to give him a kiss and a hug. Tom was shocked that she is wearing a bra and panties too. This is not the reception he was expecting. He tried to encourage his wife to go to the bedroom and relieve 6 days of pent-up sexual desire. I'm tired now. Maybe tonight. Okay, Kathy suggested. Maybe tonight. What the hell was going on? Who is this woman, and what did she do with my wife? Dejected, he went out to the porch to bring in the suitcases. Having nothing better to do, he put all the dirty clothes in the hamper, put his toiletries back, and put away the suitcases in the attic. When he was done, he went into the kitchen where Kathy was making dinner. He walked up behind her and slipped his arms around her waist and started softly kissing her neck. She shrugged him off, saying, "Not now. Can't you see I'm trying to cook? Just leave me alone." Now rejected as well, Tom left the kitchen to sit in the living room. He pondered the changes in his wife and was not happy with his thoughts. This was not the woman he left last Sunday. Something happened during the trip, and she seemed not to want to talk about it. Trouble was brewing. It was not apparent what it would be. Kathy was worried. She knew she wasn't doing a good job of keeping everything the same. Kathy felt so damn guilty. She could not look him in the eye, much less kiss and hold him. Kathy knew this was going badly, and when sneaking a peek into the living room and saw her husband staring out the window, she knew she had blown it. She could tell by the body language he was suspicious, yet Kathy had no idea what to do. After dinner, he practically forced her up to the bedroom. They did not make gentle love the way they usually did when he returned from a trip. They had sex. It was not the usual gentle, sensual sex they normally had. It was rough, and just the one time. After they were done, he rolled off and just looked at her. She turned away and started crying. Tom got up, took a shower, got dressed, and left the house. He did not come back until Sunday night. When he returned, Kathy asked, "Where did you spend the night?" "I had paperwork to catch up on and spent the night at the shop." He snapped angrily. Kathy spoke. "I was worried. You didn't call?" He responded, "Don't you have a phone? Are your fingers broken?" Nothing more was said between them that night. Kathy put the CD away. She thought maybe that should have been in a blue box too. The homecoming went terribly wrong. What could she expect? She had cheated on her husband and was guilty as hell about it. Worse, she had planned on leaving him for another man, and now he suspected something. Kathy picked up the first of the blue boxes. She hesitated before opening it. This was when the pain started. She opened the box and took out the CD. There was no card. Her cheating had changed the tradition of the boxes. She pushed the CD into the player and heard the song begin. She remembered how she received the box. It came at work on Monday with an unusual bouquet of lavender flowers. Kathy would later learn that lavender was the flower of distrust. If any of the girls knew that, they did not say. As usual, the girls gathered around to hear the song he had sent her. Only this time, Kathy wasn't sure she wanted the girls to hear this song. She had no idea what would be on the CD. The girls kept pressing her to play the song like she always did when a box came in. Finally, she could resist them no longer and put the CD into the player. They all listened as the song began. It was a Bob Seger tune. "I know it's late. I know you're weary. I know your plans don't include me. All of my hopes fading away. We've got it all now. Let's make it last. Let's find a way. Why don't you stay?" The girls listened quietly at first and then looked at Kathy with disapproving glares. They had all seen Kathy with John and were not surprised to figure out that Tom had caught her. One of the older ladies in the group named Rose asked her, "Kathy, what have you done?" Kathy decided that what was done was done. She was planning on leaving Tom in 2 weeks, and they would all know about it anyway. Why try to hide it now? She looked at them defiantly and told them, "I am leaving Tom in 2 weeks. I will be moving in with John, the man I have been seeing. Is that what you wanted to hear?" Then Rose responded, "No, that's not what I wanted to hear, but it is what I expected. You may not realize it now, but I think you are making a huge mistake. Your husband is crazy about you. He's also one of the best men I know. I doubt the new man in your life will last anyway. You can stop now before it is too late. It may be too late anyway. You heard the CD. He suspects something already," said Kathy. "It will be your loss if he leaves and some other girl's lucky day." Rose walked away shaking her head. The other girls started wandering back to work too. Only 2 girls remained. One was Grace, the other her friend Lisa. Grace asked Kathy, "Are you really planning to leave Tom?" Kathy snapped angrily, "Yes, I am." Grace only nodded, turned, and walked away. Lisa was left throwing daggers at Kathy. "You didn't take my advice. Don't come crying to me when this all goes to hell. I am very disappointed in you. I was wondering why I haven't heard from you, why you haven't answered any of my phone calls." Lisa turned on her heels and stomped off. Kathy knew she was mad, but she would come around when she saw how good her relationship with John would be. Kathy was sure she was making the right choice. Kathy took the CD out of the player and put it away. She looked at the CD and the box once again and wondered why she didn't do what Lisa wanted her to. She went home that night and confronted Tom about the song. She yelled at him, "Why did you send me that? I am your wife." "Really?" He spat. "I thought you might be more interested in someone else. Saturday felt like you were anything but my wife. The card and CD just fit what I am thinking." "You're wrong, Tom. You're just wrong." She spat back. She knew he wasn't. He was right on target. Why couldn't she just admit it? She had the chance to tell him the truth, but she did not take it. Kathy realized that back then, she subconsciously did not want to tell him. She did not want the reality to be true. For the second time, she wiped away a tear. She put the box away. Kathy's fingers ran along the tops of the boxes and stopped on the second blue box. She remembered when she received this box. It was the day after she received the Bob Seger song. She arrived at the Kensington Street home, and it was lying on the porch up against the front door. As soon as she saw it, she looked around to see if he was there. She saw no one. She quickly scooped up the blue box and took it inside the house. She thought she should play it before John returned home. As she opened the box, she saw the usual note inside and opened the folded paper to read it. Instead of the usual song lyrics was a short letter to Kathy. It began, "My love, I know you so well, maybe better than you know yourself. You were my precious gem, a diamond. I knew every facet, cut and angle. At least I thought I did. I looked deep into the middle of that diamond. It was like looking deep into your heart, your soul. I never saw it, the imperfection, but I see it now. The song on the CD says what my mind thinks. As my heart screams that I must be wrong. If my mind is wrong, please call me. I would go to my knees to ask, no, beg your forgiveness. If you don't, I will know. That when I fell in love with you. I miss the imperfection. Love blinds and blind eyes cannot see. I await your answer, my love. What will it be?" Kathy's lips trembled and she fought back a tear. She placed the CD in the player and Ronnie Millsap started singing Stranger in My House. I can't find the love in her eyes anymore. I'm beginning to understand. I feel the presence of another man. She sits staring out the window, a million miles away. Is she loving him in her mind? While she's lying here in my bed, there's a stranger in my house. Somebody's here trying to take her away from me. Of course, Kathy did not call. Once more, Tom and the song were correct. Kathy was stunned that he could see the situation so clearly. Why couldn't Tom understand that she didn't want to hurt him? She was just in love with another man. Maybe she should have told him up front. Kathy realized she never told him the truth. Why not? It was a question she did not want to answer, even to herself. Were second thoughts creeping into her mind? Impossible. Kathy pushed the thought out of her mind. No call would come Tom's way. The cheating wife could not tell him he was right about his suspicions. Kathy picked up the third blue box. In some ways, this was the worst box. Tom was spending more overnights at the office. He would come home one night, not the next. Due to the uncertainty of Tom's actions, Kathy and John had not been able to get together during the week. They had decided to take a chance that Tom would not be home that Friday night. Kathy drove by the shop near her job. Ironically, that was where Tom had taken up residence when he did not return home. She drove by at 7 p.m. and his car was there. Deducing that he would not be coming home again tonight, Kathy called John on his cell phone. She told him the coast was clear and to meet her at the house. What Kathy didn't realize was that Tom was coming home. He was looking for just the right song to burn on a CD. He was also writing the card by hand. He wanted to talk to Kathy and try to save their marriage. Tom knew something was wrong. He thought she was seeing someone else. After all, she did not make a call as he requested if he was wrong. Yet all he had were suspicions, nothing solid. He would confront her tonight and try to stay together. It wasn't until 8:30 that Tom left his shop. It took him a half hour to drive across town to his home. When Tom turned onto his street, he saw a strange car parked in front of his home. Wary as Tom was, the strange car set off alarm bells in his mind. Tom was terrified of what he might find, but he had to know. He pulled 5 houses past his home and parked on the street. Tom went to the front door carrying a bouquet of flowers and a white box. He tried the doorknob. It was locked. Quietly, he slipped a key in the lock and turned the knob again. The door opened and Tom slowly walked inside. As he walked through the house, he could hear nothing until he came to the bottom of the stairs. The same stairs he watched his wife descend in her little black dress on the night of their first anniversary. He thought how beautiful she looked that night, and the memory made him smile. Until he heard the voices and what he thought was the bed moving. His mood turned black and cold. The smile fled his face. Tom walked up the stairs, carefully avoiding the squeaky 5th step. The house was cool as he approached the bedroom door, but sweat was pouring off his face. Tom slowly opened the door a crack and his worst fears were realized. There on his marital bed was his wife and another man. They were in the missionary position, and he could see the man moving in and out of his wife. Tom recognized him immediately. He had seen pictures in her high school yearbook of this man. Kathy had told him about their dating and that he took her virginity. The man was her first love. It was John Williams. Tears welled in his eyes as his heart broke. The knowing was worse than he realized it would be. Tom knew he should walk in and beat the culprit up, but then where would the sense be in that? He would go to jail with his wife testifying against him at his trial. No, he would just leave and let the events play out. Tom walked back down the stairs, even stepping on the fifth step. It made no difference. His lovers were too engrossed in what they were doing to hear. Tom left the flowers on the kitchen table, opened the box, and broke the CD in half, leaving it on the counter with the flowers. He took the card. He walked out of the house, slamming the door on the way out. Kathy remembered what happened next. Kathy whispered, "Did you hear that?" Impatiently, John replied, "I didn't hear anything." He wanted to continue making love. "No, I heard something." She pushed John off her, put on a robe, and went downstairs. She had a sinking feeling when she saw the flowers and the broken CD in the white box. The white box meant he was sorry and wanted her back. Now she was sure he knew. She did not know if he saw them or just heard and left. She felt terrible. She never wanted to hurt Tom like this. Yes, she knew she would hurt him when she left, but not like this. Kathy was troubled by her reaction. She was leaving him. What did she care? She had her man. It was John. Tom's feelings really should not matter to her. It was confusing, but she put it out of her mind. John finally came down and saw the flowers. John thought Tom is a chicken for letting him take his wife away so easily and not putting up a fight. So the chicken was here? With flowers and a CD? How pathetic. Kathy really did not think it was pathetic, but decided it was not worth fighting about. Tom did not come back to the house for a week. John never left, practically moving in. Kathy woke from her reverie and looked at the boxes in the case. She wished now she could have that broken CD in the white box. She might not have the other blue boxes or the black and red boxes if she did. Kathy put the CD in the player and read the card. The song that started playing was Roy Orbison's Running Scared. Kathy read the words on the card, neatly typed and pasted inside the card. No longer is funny block printing she thought so cute. Just running scared, feeling low. Running scared, you love him so. Just running scared, afraid to lose. If he came back, which one would you choose? Then all at once he was standing there, so sure of himself, his head in the air. My heart was breaking. Which one would it be? You turned around and walked away with me. That was what Roy Orbison sang. It was different on the card. The last line on the card read, "Will you leave with him or stay with me?" Kathy remembered when she received this box. It was delivered by FedEx on Monday morning. No flowers or gifts accompanied the blue box. The girls, now more curious than ever, once again crowded around Kathy's cubicle to listen to the CD. This time Kathy refused to play the CD or read the card. She now knew that a blue box was not a good color. Evidently the girls did too and begged her to play it, but Kathy held firm. It wasn't until after work when she got into her Toyota, the same one that Tom had fixed that first night. Kathy started to open the box when she heard a knock on the window. It was her friend Lisa and the older lady Rose. Lisa asked, "Do you mind if we listen to the CD Tom sent you? We will sit in the car with you and just listen to the CD. We won't say anything. Just offer support if you want it." Kathy acknowledged, "I could use some friends to listen to this with me. Do you promise not to judge me?" The girls shook their heads and Kathy let them into the car. The girls sat quietly, Lisa in front with Kathy and Rose in the back seat. Kathy opened the box and hesitated for a few moments, then slipped the disc into her car's CD player and read the card. The girls listened quietly while the CD played. She read the card and then passed it to the other women in the car. Lisa cried as she read the card and listened to the song. She knew he was pouring his heart out. He opened up to her, telling her his fear of losing her to another man. He also told her in the card that he would be coming back to his home on Saturday morning. He made it clear that she would have to make up her mind by then. He ended his card by writing, "I hope you will choose me." Rose read the card and inquired, "Kathy, what are your plans?" Kathy told them, "I'm leaving with John Saturday morning." Rose just nodded her head and remarked, "I wish I had someone who loved me enough to ask me back even after he was sure I had cheated on him." Kathy responded, "Rose, aren't you the one who has been divorced twice?" "Of course you are right." Rose replied sadly, "But if I could go back in time, I would never have cheated on Chet, my first husband. I realized too late he was the love of my life. I have really never been as happy since he left me. That may be so, but I am sure that John is the man I am destined to share my life with." Lisa thanked Kathy for sharing the contents of the box with them, and they swore they would never tell anyone about it. Kathy thanked them for honoring her request for secrecy as the ladies left the car. Kathy went home and discussed what to do with John. Leave and let him come home to an empty house. He suggested. He will understand he lost you to the better man. That should end it. Kathy felt she could not do that to him and told John he was always fair and honest with her. I was always treated well, like someone special. I owe it to him to tell him face to face. If that what you want, do it. It has to be over by Saturday, he instructed Kathy. At 9:45 a.m. Kathy was sitting at the kitchen table. The last two of her bags were placed by the door. She had taken all of the things that she wanted the day before and moved them into John's new place. Promptly at 10 a.m., Tom walked through the door of his home. The first thing he saw were the packed suitcases and instantly realized Kathy's decision had not been him. Kathy could see where there had been hope on his face moments before it was now replaced with sadness. Without acknowledging her, he walked to the fridge and pulled out a beer, twisted the top off, and threw it into the sink. He sat down in the chair across from her and took a long drink from the bottle. "I guess you answered the question," he said finally. Kathy was confused. "What question?" she asked. After taking another long drink from his beer, he replied, "You're leaving with him and not staying with me." "Oh," was all the answer she could muster. He took another drink and asked her, "You love him?" "Yes." "So, there is no use fighting for you, is there?" "No, I am sorry, Tom," she whispered. He took another drink from his bottle and slammed it down on the table. Never looking at her, he said, "I think it is time. Now, get out of my house." Kathy was shocked at his choice of words. He had never directed profanity at her before. "Will you help carry my bags outside?" Tom put the bottle to his lips and finally finished his beer and once again slammed it down on the table. "It's your decision to go. Carry your own goddamn bags." Once again shocked by his words, Kathy first carried one, then the second bag out to the porch. Once Kathy was outside, the face-to-face over, she sent a text John to come over to pick her up. She was not happy about the way things went. She wanted to try to explain what happened and how she felt. She wanted to tell him she still loved him, just not the way she loved John. She wanted to be kind about the whole thing, but Tom had other ideas. If she did not want him, then she had to go. To him, it was that simple, she thought. Then again, how could she blame him? Kathy looked at the house that she had lived in for more than 3 years. They had been happy once. She thought she heard a noise from inside the kitchen and went to look inside the window. She was dismayed to see Tom sitting in the chair with his back to her. His body was racked with silent sobs. She was shocked to see her strong husband crying like a baby. She made the mistake of putting her hand to the window as her wedding ring tapped the glass, and he turned to glare at her. He walked outside, grabbed her left hand, and quickly removed her engagement and wedding ring off her finger. Never speaking, he went back into the house and threw them on the table. They bounced off the tabletop and fell to the floor. Tom made no effort to retrieve them. Kathy was looking at him through the window. He walked to the window, all the while glaring at her eye to eye, and slowly closed the blinds. His eyes never left hers until the blinds totally closed. Kathy had never seen such a look of hate from anyone before. For the first time, she was scared of her husband. She was also scared for John. John thought Tom is a coward. She knew, or thought she knew until today, that Tom would never hurt her, but she was not too sure about what he might do to John. She had no illusions. She knew her soon-to-be ex-husband would not be easy to best in a fight. John finally arrived at the quaint house on Kensington Street. As he was getting the bags off the porch, he threw loud insults at Tom inside the house. As they were pulling away, Kathy was relieved Tom did not come out of the house to confront John. She had hoped they could part as friends. That was not to be. Putting the ugly confrontation behind her, Kathy was happy. She was with her long-lost love. They would now be starting a new life together. She would do the best she could to make him happy. Kathy put the disc into the blue box along with the card and placed it back into its spot in the case. She thought it ironic. She said the same thing to Tom as she just thought about John. She would do the best she could to make him happy. She had failed miserably. She pulled the next blue box from the case and looked inside. She remembered this one painfully well. She knew what the song was because this one had no card in it. As she took the CD from the box, she immediately thought of Tom's cousin Janice in the day of her wedding shower. Kathy had been talking to some of her girlfriends as they were leaving when Janice walked up to her. Janice looked Kathy right in the eyes and asked, "Do you really love my cousin?" Kathy assured Janice, "Yes, I do. I love him very much." "I hope you mean that," Janice warned. "I don't want Tom hurt anymore." Kathy asked her why she was so concerned. Janice gave Kathy the short version of Tom's childhood, saying Tom's mother died of stomach cancer when he was 7 years old. His father turned to alcohol and drank himself to death with sclerosis of the liver when he was 12. He was taken in by my family. My mom is his aunt, his mother's sister. For some reason, Dad did not want the responsibility of raising Tom, but Mom insisted that only family would raise her sister's boy. As a result, Tom was always made to feel unwanted by Dad, a burden on the family. Tom had commitment issues with girls in high school and was always absent from after-school functions. He was literally a lone wolf with no friends. The only thing that saved him was that he was one tough kid. He would fight anyone at the drop of a hat and usually won. While it did not make him any friends, most everybody left him alone. It didn't hurt me to have him as my older brother. The mention of his name to any bully usually ended any further problems. Have you seen all the scars on Tom's body? Kathy was interested. Tom would never speak about how he received the scars. Kathy said, I have. He told me they were from a bullet, shrapnel, and on the left side of his body, a knife cut. Janice continued, all the scars were related to his military experiences except the knife cut. He had gotten that defending her inside a bar from two drunken bikers. Kathy had never heard about that and had to know what happened, and Janice was all too happy to tell her. Tom was home on leave after his first tour in Iraq. She went to the Drop In, one of the local bars in town that was frequented by a rough crowd, bikers, and truckers. Why Angie wanted to go there is still a mystery to me. Tom was there having a few beers with two army buddies that came home on leave with him. I didn't see him when we walked in. Angie and I were at a table when two unsavory guys asked us to dance. One was a big guy with short hair and a black biker jacket on. The other one was smaller with dirty, stringy dark hair. I can still see them like it happened yesterday. We told them no thanks. They wouldn't take no for an answer. Dirty hair guy got upset and started calling us 304. The bigger of the two grabbed my arm and tried to pull me out of the booth. Out of nowhere, Tom appeared and pushed the big guy off me. The big guy swung at Tom and missed, then Tom pummeled his face with his fist until the big guy went down. As he turned to face the dirty hair guy, I saw the knife slash down the lower portion of Tom's stomach, opening a large cut. To my amazement, he never showed any reaction, instead kicking the guy as his knee. I could hear the bones breaking and he went down in a heap. 3 swift kicks to his groin ended the fight. That, Kathy, is why Tom is my favorite cousin. Who knows what could have happened if he wasn't there? I am very protective of him. I do not want anything bad to happen to him. If you hurt him, you will have me to deal with. Kathy was surprised to learn about her soon-to-be husband's violent past. He had always been kind and gentle to her. She did feel safer knowing he was a man who could protect her if he had to. Kathy assured Janice again, after hearing how he protected you, I think I love him now even more. I promise you I will never hurt him. Ruefully, Kathy thought that was another promise she made that she did not keep. Kathy remembered the day this box came to her office. She had received it again by FedEx Messenger on the Monday after the Saturday confrontation. It came without flowers. She thought he figured she did not deserve flowers from him anymore. She also refused to play the CD for the girls again and played it for Lisa and Rose in her car after work. Both Lisa and Rose wanted to know the meaning behind the song as it had no card. As Kathy told the girls about his younger years, the deaths of his family, and not getting any love or acceptance until he met Kathy. Now, years later, she realized she did not understand the meaning of the song when she first heard it. She just thought it meant he loved her more than she loved him. She did not shed a tear when she listened to the song when she first played it in her car. Lisa and Rose said nothing to comfort her that day. They just left the car. As she placed it in the CD player, the Bee Gees tune, To Love Somebody, started playing. There's a light, a certain kind of light, that never shone on me. In my brain, I see your face again. I'm a man. Can't you see what I am? I live and breathe for you. But what good does it do? If I ain't got you, baby, you don't know what it's like to love somebody the way I love you. Tears flowed from Kathy's eyes over her cheeks into her mouth. She could taste the bitter tears on her tongue. She knew now what the song meant. She was the light. Tom wanted Kathy's love to shine on him, as no love had ever been shined on him. Tom thought Kathy was that person. Kathy had stolen it from him, maybe the one thing Tom craved most in the world. Kathy wished she had it to do all over again. If she only knew then what she knew now, she would still be married to Tom. She placed the box back in the case and pulled the last white box from the case. The last white box she would ever get from him. The last white box in front of the black box. She remembered all too well when she received this box. This box came on the Friday after she received the BG CD. Kathy, Lisa, and Rose were walking out of the office building where they all worked. As they were walking towards the parking lot, they heard someone yell, "Kathy, wait." They looked in the direction of the sound and saw Tom jogging up the street. Tom was dressed in his usual tight-fitting blue jeans, a tucked-in sky blue short-sleeve button-down chambray, and work shoes. Kathy admitted to herself he did look good jogging to them. Rose whispered to Kathy, "If he were mine, I don't think I could have thrown him back." Kathy gave her a disdainful look as he drew near and started walking up to them. They all could not help but notice that he had a white box in his left hand. "Hi," he said. Kathy could see him look her over, starting at her knees, slowly traveling up to her eyes, where their eyes locked for a second. Reluctantly, he tore his eyes off Kathy, turned to Rose and Lisa. He nodded, greeting them. The women nodded back in acknowledgement. He turned back to Kathy and said, "You look well." "Thank you," Kathy said in return. An awkward silence followed. Finally, Tom spoke. "Kathy, I need to talk to you for a few minutes. Would that be all right?" Kathy replied, "I don't know, Tom. I have to be getting home. John will be waiting for me." "I know," he said. "This will only take a few minutes. Surely you can spare 5 minutes for an old friend." When he said old friend and not former lover or jilted husband, she knew he did not want to fight and decided to give him his 5 minutes. Tom turned to the girls and saying, "I want to talk to Kathy in private. I hope you don't mind." He started walking Kathy to her car. Both Rose and Lisa followed right behind them. They both liked Tom, but at this stage they did not know if he were capable of violence against her. After walking a few feet, he noticed that they were following along behind them. Tom turned to look at them and a small smile crossed his face. "Okay, I guess I will have to do this in front of you." He turned to Kathy and started speaking. "Please let me finish what I have to say without interrupting me. I have to say it all, and if you say anything, I will not be able to finish." "Okay?" Kathy nodded. Tom began. "I know I am not a college-educated man. I don't speak well. It's my own fault, and I know that. I have never been able to express my feelings openly. I suppose I did not tell you I loved you often enough, or how much you mean, or meant to me. I tried to rely on the songs and the meanings in the lyrics to let you know how much I loved, even needed you. Obviously, I failed miserably. I loved you more than you will ever know. I was so happy with our lives together. I guess my happiness blinded me to your unhappiness. I am truly sorry I could not see it and did nothing to make it better. I want you to have this." He handed her the box. "It will be my last gift to you. Its meaning is as much for you as it is for me. If you don't respond to the song, I will not bother you again. I will never come here to your work or your new home. If I see you on the street, it will be strictly by accident, I assure you. If your car breaks down, you can bring it in for repairs." With a little smile, he said, "Of course, this time I will charge you." Kathy, remembering their first meeting, smiled also. "Well, I guess that's all I wanted to say." He started to turn away, then turned back. "There is one more thing. I want to thank you. We had 3 great years together. The 3 best years of my life, actually, and I will always remember them and think of you fondly." Finally, Tom turned and spoke to Rose and Lisa. "Ladies, you showed me something today with your courage and loyalty. I am glad Kathy has friends such as you. I know you will look out for her. I am just surprised that you would think so badly of me. Did you really think I would do anything to?" And with the word hurt, Tom's voice cracked, and he took a second to recover. He continued that I would do anything to hurt her. "Since this will probably be the last time we ever see each other, this will really be our goodbye. I wish you both the best, that you find whatever it is that you are seeking in life, and that when you find it, you both get to keep it." Tom's voice cracked again on the word keep, but he was able to continue speaking without stopping. By this time, Rose was openly crying and gave Tom a big hug. When she did so, Tom whispered in her ear that, "If anyone tries to hurt or bother Kathy, will you let me know?" When they broke the hug, Rose, crying and smiling at the same time, shook her head yes, indicating she would let him know. He then hugged Lisa goodbye and asked her the same question. She whispered, "I will." Tom turned and walked away, never once looking back at the girls. He knew he couldn't. They would see the tears in his eyes. The girls watched Kathy's husband walk away. Rose turned to Kathy and said, "If you let him walk away after that, John had better be worth it." Lisa just shook her head. The few times she met John, Lisa thought him a complete asshole. Lisa tried hard, but she could not see what Kathy saw. She thought Kathy was making a mistake, and one time had told her so. Kathy got so upset it almost ruined their friendship. Lisa did not say much about it after that. Once again, the 3 of them got into Kathy's car to listen to the CD. Once again, there was no card or note to go with the CD. Kathy took the CD in her hand and hesitated before putting in the player. Kathy looked to Rose, then Lisa, and asked, "Should I listen to it?" Lisa said, "Whatever you want. I'm not going to get in the middle of this." It was Rose who spoke up. After the way he exposed his innermost feelings, you have to listen to the song. You owe him at least that much. Kathy thought it over and her curiosity got the better of her and she slipped it into the slot on the player. The sounds of the Beatles singing the ballad "This Boy" softly came out of the speakers. Tom felt it summed up the situation perfectly. Someone stole his wife Kathy from him. John undoubtedly wanted her but did not love her like Tom loved Kathy. Even though Kathy hurt him badly, Tom would still take her back. He wanted her to know that. Even though Tom was wronged, he loved Kathy and would endure the pain, any amount of pain to get the woman he loved back. Tom was also sure that John would hurt Kathy in the long run. He had met his kind before. John was a user. He would use Kathy for sex then dump her when he was through with her. Kathy listened to the haunting lyrics of the song and realized that Tom and the Beatles were prophets. "That boy took my love away. He'll regret it someday. That boy isn't good for you. Though, he may want you too. This boy wants you back again. This boy wouldn't mind the pain. Would always feel the same. If this boy gets you back again." She realized it in the end and did regret it. John was not good for her and made her cry. In the car that day, Kathy did not understand or believe the words sung by the Beatles. Tom's reliance on the songs to convey his feeling once again did not achieve his goal. Kathy did not contact Tom. As she placed the Beatles recording back into its place in the line, she was reminded that she had heard those words spoken to her by Tom before. Ashamed that she had forgotten, she reached in the case of boxes. Her fingers trembled as she reached into the case. They settled on the first white box. Kathy closed her eyes as shame washed over her face. He had told her what he was doing with the very first box he gave her. She thought back to the day she received it. Kathy and Lisa were on their way to the mall. It was a Sunday morning. Tom was taking Kathy on a picnic that afternoon. Kathy wanted to buy some new clothes. Kathy was driving when Lisa asked her the question. "So how is it going with your mechanic?" kidded Lisa. Kathy immediately got annoyed and fired back. "He is not just a mechanic, he owns his own business. You know that. Calm down. I was just joking with you." "So what is going on with you two?" asked Lisa. "He loves me, I know that much," Kathy answered. "And you know this how?" inquired Lisa. Kathy responded, "I can tell by the way his smile lights up his face whenever he sees me. My car has never run so good. He has me bring it in all the time and has his guys work on it. I think there is nothing wrong with it. He wants to see me. He always has lunch waiting for me when I get there. God help someone if they hit on me while he is around. I have broken up 2 pissing matches already. He takes me places, treats me good, and is very protective. He loves me all right. I just know it. He just hasn't said it to me yet. Why not? What is holding him back?" asked Lisa. Kathy stopped at a light and explained, "Well, I think he might be waiting for me to make the first move. He is really a shy guy around women," replied Kathy. Lisa looked at Kathy and asked her, "What about you? Do you love him?" "Truthfully, I'm not sure. I think I do, but I am just not sure," replied Kathy. "Not sure won't work with a guy like Tom. You have to be in love with the man before you can say you love him. So tell me the truth. Do you love him?" asked Lisa. It took a while before Kathy answered. "It's been so long since I felt something like love for any man. Not since John." Lisa had enough of John Williams and now told Kathy so. "I don't want to hear any more about John. He screwed you over. He left and never came back. Not even a phone call or email. John may have had lust for you, but not love. If he loved you, he would be here with you. You have a guy who you think loves you, and he is right here. He won't tell you he loves you? Maybe he can sense you don't love him enough, and he doesn't want to commit. If you want to keep him, you better make up your mind real quick, or you will lose him," Lisa exclaimed. "If you let him go, you will be sorry you're losing Tom than John Williams," Lisa muttered under her breath. Kathy thought about what Lisa had told her. She thought she loved Tom, but still could not get John out of her mind. Still, she did not want to lose Tom. She knew there was no one better out there for her, and she could do a lot worse. Kathy took her time getting ready for today's date. It was a picnic in River Park, so named for the river that ran through it. She wore a pair of cut-off short jeans and a red checkered shirt tied below her ribs showing her midriff. Since it was Florida, wearing a pair of flip-flops is always acceptable. They had a great day at the park. Tom brought some good food, 2 bottles of wine, 1 blanket for both of them to sit on. After the day was done, the happy couple returned to Kathy's apartment. Tom told Kathy, "Sorry, sweetie, but I have to leave early tonight." "Why so soon?" Kathy whined. "We just got here. We can have more wine, sit and talk." "What do you say?" "I can't tonight," Tom complained unhappily. "I have a meeting with a representative from Avis to provide roadside assistance to vehicles in this area. It could be revenue stream for my business and maybe someday our business, babe. I have to be ready. I need my wits about me tomorrow. There are too many numbers to remember. I'm sorry, babe, but I have to go. Kathy was sad but resigned. I know you have to go, honey. Call me tomorrow when the meeting is over, she asked. He walked to her and gave her a kiss. You can count on it, he replied huskily. After he left, Kathy changed into something more comfortable, a t-shirt and sweatpants. As Kathy lounged watching TV, she was taken by surprise to hear the doorbell ring. Peering out through the peephole, she saw Tom standing there and threw open the door, letting him. She was pleasantly surprised. Did you forget something? She asked breathlessly. Yes, and it is you, he replied. Once again gathered her in his arms and kissed her. He took a step back, and for the first time Kathy saw a thin white box. Tom held it in front of him so Kathy could see it. Tomorrow I will be meeting with a powerful representative of a potential business partner. I will be able to speak to him as an equal, tell him what I think and listen to his responses with no trouble. With you, however, I have more of a problem. Kathy, for some reason I can't express myself as verbally as I want to. Tom stammered. He then handed her the box and said, I hope this tells you how I feel about you. Call me anytime. He gulped. Kathy took the box as Tom walked out of the apartment. Kathy was confused by his actions. She went to the window and watched him drive away before opening the box. Inside there was a CD and a note. Kathy remembered that night as if it was yesterday. She placed the CD in the player and read the note again, as she did that night. A Randy Travis song played on the player. When you meet that certain someone you've been searching hard to find, in the time we've spent together, I have learned to trust in you. It completes a perfect union between a woman and a man. So please don't misunderstand me. I don't want to go too far without knowing just one answer. Can I trust you with my heart? The only thing written on the note was the line, can I trust you with my heart? That night, Kathy thought for a minute and then called Tom on her cell. When he answered hello, all she said was yes. Tom asked her, what? Kathy answered, you can trust me with your heart. I'll be right back. Tom shouted through the phone. Kathy was waiting in the hall as Tom ran up the stairs. He picked her up in his arms and carried her into the apartment, kicking the door shut with his foot. His voice trembled as he told her, I love you, Kathy. I love you like I have never loved another person on this earth. I feel the same about you, Kathy cooed. They made love for the first time that night. In his excitement, Tom never noticed that Kathy did not actually say the words, I love you too. Kathy cried when she thought of that night. She now realized too late that she did love him too. Maybe she loved him the first time she saw him in the repair shop. Now it was all too late. Kathy put the white box away and pulled out the black box. She thought about the events that led up to her receiving the black box. It had been 3 weeks since she had spoken with Tom in front of her work. True to his word, Kathy had not seen or heard from him since. On a Friday morning, John was about to leave for work when he asked Kathy, do you want to go out to eat after work that evening? How about Kelly's downtown, he suggested. Kathy knew that was a place that she and Tom went to often. No, Kathy snapped. You know Tom and I went there often. I won't go any place where I might run into him. If not there, I heard about a new bar and grill that opened up a few blocks from where you work. I can drive you to work and then pick you up at 5. I'll wait for you outside the office. What do you think? John asked. Kathy thought about that and joked, that sounds like a plan. John was waiting for her and drove her to the new place called the Easton Avenue Pub, obviously named after the street it was located on. Kathy was puzzled when she saw the look of disdain on the faces of the waitress and bartender when they walked in. They sat in a booth on rear wall in the back. The waitress came and gave menus and water to them. Soon she was back to take their drink order. As the waitress was taking their order, Kathy heard the door to the pub open. She took a look to see who it was and was shocked to see her former husband walk in and take a seat at the bar. She heard him order his customary gin and tonic. She glared at John and asked him, did you know he would be here? John gave her a smirk, replying, no, of course not. Kathy knew right away he was lying, but had no idea what to do. Before she could say anything else, John announced to her, I have to go to the restroom, got up from his chair, and started to walk to the bar. He asked the bartender where the restroom was, and the bartender pointed to the large sign that clearly said restrooms. John then said, hey buddy, I did not see you sitting there. Kathy knew that was a lie also. She had pointed Tom out to him. Tom just looked at him and turned back to his drink and took a sip. John walked to where Tom was sitting and put his hand on the back of Tom's chair and smirked, don't feel so bad. She picked the best man, and it wasn't you. Tom looked at him as John looked at Kathy with a large smile on his face. Tom looked over his shoulder and saw Kathy sitting there watching. Tom turned back to John and said, "Yeah, she picked you." John laughed, patted Tom on the back, and said, "That's right, she picked me, not you," and walked off the restroom. Kathy was horrified at what she had just witnessed. She knew Tom did not deserve that. She could not tear her eyes away from her former husband. He put the drink to his lips and finished his drink in one gulp. He went to pay, and the bartender said it was on the house. Tom got off his chair and walked directly to Kathy. "That was low, Kathy, even for you. Did you get a kick out of seeing me humiliated? I told you I would never bother you again, and I haven't. Now I get this? You two are made for each other," he told Kathy with a look of disgust. Kathy told Tom, "I knew nothing about this. You have to believe me. I did not know you would be here or he would do this. After what you did to me, why would I believe you now? I don't trust you. I don't like him," Tom snapped. John walked up to the table and sneered. "Are you still here?" Tom turned to John and just stared at him. She could see her soon-to-be ex-husband's hand curl up into a fist. Kathy's mind wandered back to a time when they were a happily married couple. Kathy and Tom were fighting one night, and she hit him with her fist. He stopped her and told her not to tuck her thumb inside her fingers. He explained her thumb could break if she hit anyone hard. She watched as his thumb curled under his fist between the first and second knuckles of his left hand, just the way he taught her to. They stood there toe-to-toe, and Kathy thought she saw fear in John's eyes. The waitress walked over with Kathy's Cosmo and John's beer and said, "This isn't the place for this, Tom." Without taking his eyes off John, he said, "Amanda, you are probably right." Tom backed away from John, not turning until he got a safe distance, then turned and walked out of the pub. She did not know it then, but he walked out of her life that night as well. John followed Tom to the entrance and watched him leave. Amanda put the drinks on the table and said to her with disdain dripping from her voice, "So you dumped Tom for that asshole? Do you know this is the third time he has done that to Tom?" She walked away shaking her head. When John came back to the table, he was noticeably upset. "What did he talk to you about?" he demanded. Kathy was furious, but before she could say anything to John, a man walked up to the table. "I don't know if you remember me, but I was at your wedding to Tom." Kathy replied, "I'm sorry, but I do not remember you. I am Tom's friend, Paul. I was there with my wife, Phyllis. I gave Tom something during the meal," Kathy remembered. He, along with two other friends of Tom's, came up to the dais as we were eating the fruit salad and put their cherries in Tom's cup, saying at least now he would have a cherry tonight. Everyone had a good laugh at Tom's expense. Kathy laughed. "I remember. The cherries. How are you, Paul?" "I am fine, Kathy." Then he turned to John and said, "I am the owner of this establishment. Tonight's meal is on the house. When you are finished with your meal, I want you to leave immediately. Neither one of you are welcome back." Kathy's face turned a deep crimson with embarrassment. John just laughed. Paul continued, "I have a word of warning for you," looking directly at John. "Tom would not do anything to cause trouble in my place. However, if he should see you again any place else, you should run the other way. He will not be so charitable again." John sneered and commented, "I am not afraid of him." "Don't say you weren't warned," Paul replied and started to walk away, then turned, smiled, and said, "I just hope I am there to see it." Kathy ate her food in silence. She was furious with John. She knew this was a setup to humiliate Tom. The food was delicious. She was sad she could not come back here again. She remembered talking to Paul and his wife. She liked them immediately. She would have liked to reconnect with them. After John's stunt, she knew that could not happen. To make matters worse, he did not leave a tip. That night, Kathy and John had their first serious fight. John was just being John. He was mad. He could not understand why she would side with that wimp. John was just making sure her ex-husband knew who Kathy belonged to. He was staking his claim. He was telling Tom to stay away. Even though he was having doubts, he could keep him away if he had to. At this point, Kathy was convinced John could not. Not if Tom wanted to. With a mixture of sadness and relief, she no longer thought he was interested. The sadness was the knowledge that part of her life was definitely over, relief that there would be no violence. As she remembered, tears fell from her eyes. The pain he felt she was feeling now. Her memories were becoming very painful for her. Somehow she felt she had to continue going through the boxes until she hit the last red box. 1 week later, Kathy was at work when she heard the door to the agency open. Kathy looked up to see who it was, and to her shock, it was Tom's cousin Janice. The one she told that she loved Tom and would never hurt him. Janice looked very professional. She wore a gray pinstriped business suit, skirt with jacket, and a white shirt. She strode up to Kathy with a pissed-off look on her face. She carried an attaché case in her left hand. "You don't keep your promises very well, do you, Kathy?" she hissed. "I am sorry, Janice. I didn't mean for this to happen. It just did," Kathy explained. Janice looked at the name plate on her desk and picked it up. "Is this you? Are you still Kathy Holden?" Kathy replied, "Yes, I am." "Good," said Janice. She put her attaché case on her desk and pulled out a white folder and threw it on her desk. "You have been served," Janice said with obvious disdain. Then she pulled out the black box, and as she threw it on top of the folder, she said in a loud voice, "You stupid cheating 304. You hurt him bad. He is way too good for you. You know that, don't you? His heart is broken. Don't you worry. He'll find someone else to mend his heart. I know one day you will be dragging your sorry ass back to him. He would probably take you back too. That's why I hope he will already have found someone else to take your place. Oh, by the way, you should listen to the CD. I did. It's beautiful. My cousin was always too good for you," Janice yelled. Janice turned to walk away when Kathy heard someone yell, "Wait." She saw Grace get up and walk to Janice. Grace stood with her back to Kathy facing Janice. They spoke for a few seconds and Janice shook her head yes. She saw Grace hand something to Janice. Janice looked at Kathy as a smile came over her face. She turned back to Grace, smiled again, and shook her head yes again. Janice turned to walk out the door and Kathy could hear her laughing. Grace walked back to her desk and Kathy thought she could see a smile on her face also. Kathy opened the box and took out the CD. There was no card this time, and this time only Rose and Lisa came to listen to the CD. Lisa asked, "Do you want to play it now or wait until after work in the car?" Kathy said, "Janice said it was beautiful. Why not play it now?" She put the CD into the player on her desk and a Garth Brooks song played. It was The Dance, and it was beautiful. Looking back on the memory of the dance we shared 'neath the stars above. For a moment, all the world was right. How could I have known that you'd ever say goodbye? Holding you, I held everything. For a moment, wasn't I the king? If I'd only known how the king would fall. Hey, who's to say? You know I might have changed it all. And now, I'm glad I didn't know. The way it all would end, the way it all would go. I could have missed the pain, but I'd have had to miss the dance. Rose and Lisa were openly crying now, even though Kathy wasn't. There were many pairs of misty eyes in the office. Most of the women liked Tom. Here he was saying all the pain was worth it just to have had that time with her. Kathy did not understand it then. Kathy understood exactly what he was saying with the song this time. It hurt to go through it, but the pain was worth what he had. Why couldn't she see it when it all happened? Kathy put the CD back into its box and placed it into the case. She would only see Tom one more time. It was after the divorce was final. She took the papers to her lawyer. It was a 50-50th split on everything except his business. Tom would not give her any of his business. She did not care. She was going to be a doctor's wife. Let him keep his business. She signed the papers. John and Kathy were married 1 month after the 6-month waiting period was over. John's practice was doing well. John had hired 2 nurses, a receptionist, and a biller. Kathy and John had sold the apartment and purchased a nice home in same neighborhood as Tom's Kensington Street home, just a few blocks away. As John's practice grew, he started to work some late nights. Kathy was not happy, but she realized his patents came first. After all, as John told her, I took the Hippocratic oath. I have patients to treat. Plus, he chuckled, they paid the bills. One Friday night, John's receptionist called to tell Kathy that the doctor was running late and had more patients to see before he could leave for the night. Kathy was disappointed. She had made chicken cacciatore with spaghetti for John's dinner that night. She decided to be the good wife, like the TV show, and pack his dinner and bring it to the office so he could have something good to eat. She drove to the office and was surprised to see only 2 cars in the parking lot. One was John's and she did not recognize the other one. She got out of her car, took the cacciatore, and went to the door of the office and tried to open it. To her surprise, the door was locked. No problem. After all, she had her own key. She juggled the food in one hand as she dug into her purse to feel for her keys. Finally, she found them and let herself in and was about to call out. Then she heard noises from one of the examination rooms that made her heart drop. What she heard was not doctor-patient conversation. It was the sounds of 2 people making love. She turned the knob on the door and pushed it open. Kathy could not believe the scene in the room. An older, obviously bleached blonde was lying on the examination table. John was naked and standing at the end of the table, his hips moving back and forth, obviously having sex with that woman. Neither of them had heard her come in. Kathy screamed. What is going on here? With that, she threw the cacciatore at the copulating couple. The food flew all over both of them. The chicken fell between the women's naked body and the spaghetti and sauce was on both of them. Kathy slammed the door shut and ran from the office, started her car, and started laughing at the spectacle of John and his new bimbo covered in sauce. Then another thought crept into her consciousness. Chicken cacciatore and spaghetti was the first meal she had served to Tom. Kathy started her car and sped away. She didn't know what to do. She did not want to go right home. She called her friend Lisa's cell phone. Lisa was out with the rest of the girls that worked at the insurance agency for a girls' night out. Kathy told her she had a fight with John and needed someone to talk to. Lisa told her that Rose was the only one left, and they were at the Easton Avenue pub. Kathy told Lisa that she was banned from that particular establishment. Kathy suggested they meet and talk outside the pub. The women said, "We will meet you outside." Kathy said, "I'll be there in 20 minutes. Lisa warned, "There is one more thing you need to know. Tom is here, with a girl." Kathy stammered, "I don't care, I need to talk to you girls tonight." "Okay, Kathy, we will be waiting," Lisa responded. Kathy thought about Tom. What she saw was the same thing he had seen in his own home that awful night. She now knew firsthand the pain and humiliation he must have felt. She was going to her best friends for comfort and support. She realized that when she betrayed Tom, she was his best friend. Who did he have to go to for comfort and support? She knew the answer. Nobody. He had to bear the pain on his own. Kathy opened the door to her car to let Lisa and Rose in. Kathy was still sobbing softly when they entered the car. Immediately, Lisa wanted to know what happened. Kathy could hardly speak. When she calmed down, she recounted what she saw. "I saw some 40-year-old bleached blonde with huge fake tits on an examination table being serviced by my new husband," Kathy roared. Neither Lisa nor Rose was surprised at Kathy's revelation. Both girls considered John a jerk. They were more surprised it had taken Kathy so long to see it for herself. They tried to support her but were not willing to give her a pass. Rose told her, "What goes around comes around." I know, Kathy cried. "I did the same thing. Don't think I haven't thought of that already. I feel betrayed and humiliated by what John has done. What he has done to me. I never felt that way about what I did to Tom. Now I know the truth. Now I know the pain, the humiliation, the betrayal, the loss of something you thought was special. To know the one you love thought so little of it. I know now I know." Lisa and Rose glanced at each other, and by mutual unspoken consent, they did not beat up on Kathy anymore. She was doing a good job on her own. Rose asked Kathy, "What are you going to do now?" Kathy responded, "I don't know. I am so confused." Then after a few moments, she made a quick decision. "I am going home to confront John. What he did is unacceptable and will have to stop." She spat decisively. Lisa asked, "Do you want us to go with you?" Kathy replied, "No, I have to do this by myself." The girls got out of the car and watched Kathy drive off. They walked back into the pub, and as they walked to the bar, Tom was there ordering drinks and saw them. A huge smile came across his face. "Rose, Lisa, so good to see you. How long has it been?" "Almost a year." He gave them each a hug. Neither Rose nor Lisa smiled and only gave him a slight hug in return. Tom, recognizing that their response was less than friendly, moved back. "I'm sorry," he apologized. "I didn't realize it was like that. I'll be going." Tom stepped away, puzzled. He thought the last time they were together he left on a positive note. Then again, he thought, they are Kathy's friends, so why be friendly to me? Lisa realized the sudden change in his attitude first and called Tom. "Wait, it is not what you think. Please come back. We need to talk to you." Lisa and Rose wanted to take Tom to the booth and talk to him. First, he said he would have to clear that with his dinner companion. He walked to his date and spoke with her. She looked over at Lisa and Rose and spoke briefly with him again. Finally, she smiled at him and shook her head yes. Tom walked back to Lisa and Rose's table and sat down. "What is this all about? Why are you guys giving me the cold shoulder?" he asked, confused. He waited for their answer. Rose responded, "It has nothing to do with you. We just received bad news tonight." "My God, I never thought of that. Is there anything I can do to help?" Tom inquired. Lisa responded, "There probably is, but I don't think you would want to." What are you talking about?" Tom inquired. Tom had been leaning forward, his arms on the table, fully involved. Lisa said, "It has to do with Kathy." Tom pushed back from the table to the back of the seat as if he just heard the rattle of a rattlesnake. His manner changed instantly. "What does she have to do with this?" Tom asked warily. "She just caught John cheating tonight," Lisa blurted. His face said it all. First it went totally blank, then a small smile going to a huge smile to an outright belly laugh. When he finished laughing, he leaned forward with his head down, shaking it back and forth, and said, "Karma. Karma is a bitch." Then he looked at the women and asked, still chuckling, "Why are you telling me this? What does it have to do with me?" "Nothing," Rose said. "We just wanted you to know why we were down tonight." Tom's attitude changed once again. "Sorry, girls. I jumped to a wrong conclusion. I should have known better." "So where is she now?" he asked. Lisa replied she went home to confront him. "That is definitely not a good idea. John's a coward, but he won't hesitate to hurt a defenseless woman if he becomes angry," Tom stated. Anger flashed in Rose's eyes. "If he is the coward, why didn't you fight for her when you had the chance?" she asked smugly. Tom once again sat back in his seat, but without the revulsion this time. Finally, he leaned back into the girls with a profound sadness on his face. "I asked her if she loved him. She told me she did. She told me she did not love me anymore. What was there left to fight for? If I beat him up, would that make her love me once more? No, she would have hated me. So where was the sense? I was in a lose-lose situation. She still would not love me, and I could go to jail. Do you understand my reasoning now, Rose?" Tom asked. Rose nodded her head yes. Now ashamed, she even asked the question. Lisa asked, "So what are you going to do?" Tom was unmoved. He remarked, "Me? I'm not doing a damn thing. She is no longer my problem." "You can't mean that. You loved her once," reminded Lisa. "That was a long time ago. Things and people change," Tom countered. Rose spoke up now. "I know you, Tom. I have known you for 5 years now. I have spoken to Paul about you." "Surprised? Don't be. You are highly thought of here. I have overheard stories told about you by your friends here in this bar. You have lots of friends, don't you? Even when you had a falling out with one of them, if they needed something, you still helped out. Kathy was your best friend. Even though she hurt you badly, you would still not desert her. Maybe it was the way you were brought up, or maybe your military background, but you don't let people down. You don't change, Tom Holden. Not you." Rose responded. Rose held Tom's eyes while she spoke. Now he held her eyes as he spoke. "Rose, this is a family matter. This is something that should be settled in the courts. Frankly, this is a problem that I have no way of helping. Somehow I feel that this is her just reward. Chickens coming home to roost, if you get my drift. If she ever really needs me, in a way I can be of help, you can count on me to do my part. What I said to both of you that day in the parking lot still stands. If anyone hurts her or tries to hurt her, I expect for you to let me know. This does not fall into that category. He hurt her, but no less than she hurt me. Bottom line, ladies, I will not get involved in her family dispute. Maybe they will be able to get past this. Maybe she will fight for this marriage, unlike what she did to me. Maybe he will realize his mistake and not do it again. Maybe she will forgive him. I don't know, but it is not my place to butt in here. Not now," Tom insisted. An uncomfortable silence ensued. Tom broke the silence first, remarking, "Ladies, it would have been nice to see you under different circumstances. I hope if I do see you again, we can have a few drinks and some laughs. Now, if you will excuse me, I have a date to get back to." Tom left the booth. As he started to walk away, he turned back and confirmed, "Remember, if anything bad should happen, please let me know." Both girls nodded in return. They watched him return to the table and sit down. His date said something and he started talking. There came a point in the conversation that he started smiling and chuckling when the girl put her fork down and was obviously berating him. Lisa and Rose knew he had told her about the cheating and started laughing at Kathy's predicament. That is when his date got mad at him. Tom put his head down and started nodding his head yes then no, and finally he did not know what to do, so just sat there staring at his plate. When she was done, she placed her hand on his and smiled. You could just read her lips when she said, "I understand." Tom seemed to have lost his appetite and pushed his food away. His date had time to eat while he talked to Lisa and Rose. He got the check, and they left. Lisa and Rose were left wondering how Kathy fared when she went home that night to confront John. They paid their bill and left the bar. Neither woman left with a good feeling. Kathy called in sick Monday and Tuesday. Lisa was concerned but did not want to interfere. Like Tom, she felt it was a family matter. Besides, she had been burned once before for getting involved in Kathy's affair with John. It would not happen again. On Tuesday, she called John's office and it was open for business. The doctor was in. They obviously weren't home working on their problem. Lisa decided to call Kathy on her cell. Lisa left a message. Lisa was worried about Kathy and to please return her call. Kathy did not return her call. Lisa and Rose decided to go to Kathy's home if she did not return to work on Wednesday. It was 9:05 and Lisa and Rose were deciding what to do when they saw Kathy's car pull into the parking lot. Feeling greatly relieved, they went to their desks and started working. When Kathy walked through the door, the women were horrified. The large sunglasses did nothing to hide the bruises around Kathy's left eye. The heavy makeup on her right cheek suggested more facial damage. Lisa and Rose quickly ushered Kathy into the ladies' room and locked the door. Lisa ripped the glasses off her face and gasped. Kathy's left eye was black and blue. There still was minor swelling around the bottom of her eye. Lisa looked closely at her cheek, and she could see the palm and 5 fingers where John's open hand slapped her right cheek. Kathy was stoic. Apparently, she was all cried out. Rose asked what happened. She started crying. She was not all cried out. Kathy finally stopped and told the women what happened. John was home when she got there. He immediately yelled at her, "Where have you been? Who have you been talking to? What did you think you were doing throwing that disgusting food at us? That was an important client." Kathy cut in, "So important you had to screw her on your examination table?" John was livid. He reared back and punched Kathy in the eye. Kathy screamed and fell to the floor. She had never felt such pain. Kathy was almost knocked out. John grabbed his wife by the hair, held her head up, and slapped Kathy across the face with his left hand. Kathy saw stars and then nothing. When Kathy woke up, John was going nuts in the house. He was breaking knickknacks and kicking furniture and the walls. When John noticed Kathy stirring, he knelt over her again and pulled Kathy up by her blouse. He thundered, "This is the way it will be from now on. If I want to work late, you would just have to put up with it. If you don't like it, you can leave, if you dare. If you give me any more problems, you will get more of what you got tonight." He screamed at her, "Do you understand?" Kathy was terrified. She cowered away from him and nodded her head yes. "Good," he ranted. "Now go upstairs and get yourself fixed up." Kathy went to the bathroom and splashed cold water on her face. Taking a good look in the mirror, and her eye and right cheek were already swelling. Going into the kitchen, Kathy took some frozen peas out of the freezer. Retreating upstairs to lie down, she placed them on her swollen face. The next morning, Kathy woke up still in the same clothes she worn the day before. The peas had thawed out and were under her head. Kathy went to her bathroom and was surprised to see her whole face was swollen. She spent the whole day with something cold on her face to bring down the swelling. John was nowhere to be found. Kathy was relieved. She did not want to see him anyway. John did not come home until Sunday afternoon. He offered no explanation of his whereabouts, and she did not ask. That night, John wanted sex. Kathy said no. She was too hurt for sex. He just left again. He came home Monday to take a shower and get changed, then left for the office. The girls listened silently, first in complete shock at her tale, then getting angry at John's callousness. Lisa urged Kathy, "Go to the police and have him arrested for assault and battery." "No," Kathy cried. "I want to make this marriage work. I want to work things out. I already screwed up one marriage." The women exploded. "He beat you up. He did something despicable to you. Do you think this will be the last time?" yelled Rose. "I know," replied Kathy. "I just can't give up so quickly." Lisa fumed. "I don't know what to do. I give up," and walked away. Rose walked away too, but not before she took a quick photo with her cell phone. She knew exactly what she was going to do. Rose left work 1/2 hour early. She drove directly to Tom's shop. She parked her car in front of one of the open bays and walked towards the shop bay door. Tom was working on a 1964 Jaguar XK when he looked up and saw Rose pull into the lot in front of bay number 2. He picked up a rag to clean his hands and smiled as Rose got out of her car. Rose did not see him at first, as he was in the shadows of the shop at this hour of the day. As he emerged from the shadows, she took in the handsome man walking towards her. She was always impressed with his muscular body. As Tom walked confidently towards her with that big smile on his face, made Rose think Kathy was out of her mind to give that up. Even the act of cleaning his hands with that white rag seemed sexy. "Good to see you, Rose. Having car trouble?" he asked. "No, nothing like that. I need to speak with you in private, if that would be okay." He looked at her puzzled for a second and said, "Sure, come into the office." Rose followed him, where he sat behind a small cluttered desk and indicated that she should sit on the chair opposite him. They sat in silence for a while, he waiting for her to begin the conversation. Rose wasn't sure how to start, and she finally blurted out, "Kathy is having problems with John." The neutral look on his face changed to anger, then disdain. "Any problems in her relationship with that a-hole are no longer problems of mine. And good riddance to that 3-0. He could not complete the sentence. Even if he felt that she was a 304, he could not talk about Kathy like that. Wearily, Tom began, "Rose, I just don't care if they have problems. What does it have to do with me? Do you remember the day you met us outside work?" she asked. When you gave her the box with the Beatles song inside it. Yeah, I remember. It didn't work, did it? Nothing seemed to work. Not even a phone call from that witch. She ripped my heart out. So now what? I'm supposed to care what happens to her? She didn't care about me, did she? Tom ranted. Rose was taken back by his outburst. Maybe she was wrong. He might think this was what she deserved, getting beaten up by her lover. Had the love he had for her turned to hate, would he even care anymore? She plunged ahead. It's more than that. She pulled out her phone and scrolled to the picture she took this morning. She handed the phone to him. She tried to read his face, but there was no emotion. No inkling of what he was going on behind the mask on his face. When did you take this? He inquired. This morning, replied Rose. He looked at it for a few more seconds and handed it back to Rose. That's too bad. What do you want from me? He asked. Rose was shocked by his lack of concern. Aren't you going to do something? What about what you said to Lisa and me? You said tell you if somebody tries to hurt her. She has been hurt. Was what you told us just so much bullshit? She yelled. Call the cops, Rose. It looks like assault and battery to me. Rose was incensed. That's it. That's all you have to say. Tom responded, what do you want me to say? Do you expect me to protect her virtue? She has no virtue. She had her affair. She broke her vows. She didn't care about me. She didn't care about my pain. Give me a good reason why I should care about her pain. Just give me one reason, Rose. Just one good reason, begged Tom. She looked into his eyes. She could see the pain in them. Because you love her, I can see it on your face. Isn't that a good reason? Rose stated. Sorry, Rose, you're wrong. I loved her once, back then, but not now. The feeling I have for her is definitely not love. Not anymore. Tell her to call the cops. I'm not getting involved, Tom stated flatly. Rose looked long and hard at him, finally shaking her head. She stood to leave. As she walked out the office door, Rose turned and spoke to him. You've surprised me today. I thought better of you. I never thought you would let some man beat your wife. Abruptly, he stood. For the first time today, she could see anger flash in his eyes. And that's the crux of the matter. She is not my wife. If she were, I would have to be dead before I would allow some a-hole to lay a finger on her. She chose that a-hole over me. I was her husband. Yet she picked him over me. I guess she wanted to trade up, be a doctor's wife, not the wife of a mechanic. She made her bed, let her lie in it. An agonized Tom roared. Rose replied, I'm sorry, Tom. I did not realize how you felt. Not that I blame you. She must have hurt you deeply. Rose commiserated. Tell her to call the authorities, Rose. Tell her to get a divorce. She already knows how to do that. Sorry if I disappointed you today, Rose, but I just can't, he replied. Rose walked through the doorway and out of the shop. Tom followed after her. He stood in the middle of the bay watching her. As Rose opened her car door, she apologized to him, saying sadly, I'm sorry to have bothered you today. I hope I didn't ruin your evening. He did not reply. Before starting her car, Rose looked through the windshield into his face. The expression on his face was hard to read. Pain, anger, disdain, hatred. Rose couldn't tell which. Maybe it was a mixture of all those emotions. Whatever his emotions were, he decided not to help. Rose started her car and drove away. Kathy, you really screwed it up, she thought as she drove away. She had failed today when she was so sure Tom would help. As Rose drove away, she had no idea how to help her anymore. Kathy came to work Thursday and Friday. There were no bruises that could be seen, but she was definitely becoming more and more rattled. The girls did not know about any physical violence, but they were sure she was being sexually abused. Monday morning brought a change in Kathy. Everybody could see it, sense it when she walked in the door to work. She said hi to everyone and even smiled. Something Kathy had not done in a while. Lisa and Rose dragged Kathy to their sanctuary, the ladies' restroom, and locked the door. What's going on, Kathy? What happened? Lisa asked. John got beat up Friday night outside his office. He got beat up really bad. Whoever did it made him promise to apologize to me. John said that the assailant told him that if he did not apologize to me, he would know and come back and finish the job, whatever that meant. John doesn't know it, but I know who it was, sang Kathy. How do you know? Rose said. I heard him talking to himself in the shower this weekend, and he was cursing out my ex-husband Tom. Giggled Kathy. How could he find out about this? Kathy asked. Rose said, it was me. I told him about it Wednesday after work. Kathy hugged Rose and thanked her. Kathy told her friends that she had made up her mind and was leaving John. She would see a lawyer tomorrow about getting a divorce. Kathy thanked Rose again for helping. Rose said, don't thank me. I didn't kick the shit out of your husband. Kathy mused. Maybe you're right. I should go and thank him myself. I don't know about that, Kathy. He is not too fond of you right now. You didn't hear the way he was talking about you when I went to see him, warned Rose. I know, Rose. After what I did, he probably hates me, but I still need to thank him in person. That's the least I can do, asserted Kathy. Both women agreed. Lisa walked in the Easton Avenue pub first, followed by Rose, with Kathy bring up the rear. They sat at a table only a few feet away from him. Tom was sitting at the bar immersed in thought while drinking his second gin and tonic. He never noticed them come in. Lisa gestured for Kathy to get on with it. A nervous Kathy trembled slightly and walked to her former husband. She sat on the empty seat next to him and saw the bandaged and swollen right hand. She could see that his left hand had scratches on it, but was not hurt badly enough to not pick up his drink with it. He still had not realized that someone was sitting on his right. His mind must have been somewhere else that night. Kathy reached out and placed her hand tenderly over his bandaged hand and said, "It must be very painful." His head never moved, but his eyes moved to his right, and he could see her. "It is not too bad. It will be better in a few weeks." "What do you want, Kathy?" he asked in a not too friendly tone of voice. "Please," implored Kathy. "I just want to talk, not fight. Is that okay?" He nodded his head. Kathy noticed that he had not removed her hand from his bandaged one. He did not, because he actually still craved her touch, no matter how it hurt him. Kathy began, "I want to thank you for what you did on Friday. I know it was you. After all I did, you still helped me when I needed someone. I felt I had to come to thank you in person. I owe you that." She looked at his handsome profile, without a blemish from the beating he gave to John. Kathy put her hand on his chin and turned it to her, saying, "Can't you even look at me?" His face was clear and unmarked. "He wasn't able to hurt you at all, was he?" Kathy asked. "He thought you were a coward, but you knew that, didn't you?" "I was worried about you. I guess I shouldn't have been." "I guess he was wrong about me," Tom said with a sad smile. Tom wrenched his head out of her grasp and turned back, lifted his drink to his lips, and took a swallow of the clear liquid. "I am leaving him, Tom," Kathy confided. "I will be moving in with Lisa until I get a place of my own. I will be getting a divorce from John. I want to start seeing you again if you will let me. I realized that what I did was stupid. I finally found out who my real love is, and it is you. I want desperately to recover what we had. I want you back if you will have me." He finally turned to face Kathy, pulling his bandaged hand out from under hers as he moved. "You wanted to thank me?" he replied angrily. "It really wasn't necessary. I would have done the same thing if I saw a man beating a stray dog on the street." "You were worried?" "Not likely. Were you worried that morning when you left me alone in the house to go with the a-hole? Did you care about my pain, what I was going through?" "No. You only care about yourself. Why do you care now? You got what you wanted. But I get it. Why be stuck with an ordinary auto mechanic when you could be a doctor's wife? Isn't that it? So you used me, didn't you? All of you. You got what you wanted from me. What did I get? I get more pain. My hands hurt like hell. My girlfriend is mad enough to dump me for helping you. I might still go to jail for my actions. Tomorrow you will have another long-lost lover in your bed keeping you company. The only company I will have is my pain. Why don't you go, all three of you? Leave me alone." Kathy had been shaking her head no during his verbal onslaught. Looking directly in her eyes, he said, "Just go." Kathy's face paled under his onslaught. She had not realized how much pain he was in. The pain was easy to see in his eyes. It was written all over his face. Before the abuse she received from John, she never thought too much about what he went through. Now she finally understood. John had done the same thing to her as she had done to Tom. Now she understood the pain, the betrayal, and the humiliation. Yes, now she knew, but what to do now? Kathy started to speak, but he silenced her with a wave from his bandaged hand. "If you won't leave, then I will." He spat. He quickly slipped off the bar stool and was off in a flash, giving Rose and Lisa a disapproving look as he walked by and out the door. Kathy was visibly shaken. She looked at the women with a bewildered expression on her face. "Go after him, Kathy," Lisa implored. The women ran out the door only to see Tom drive off in his pickup truck. They went to Lisa's place to discuss what happened that night. None of them were happy with the way things had played out. Kathy took out the last of the blue boxes. She opened it. There was no note in the box. She slipped it into the player and listened as Randy Travis started singing "I Told You So." As she listened to the song, she remembered. It was a Wednesday evening. Lisa and Kathy stopped by the mailbox to bring in the mail. One of the items inside was a small package addressed to Kathy. From the handwriting, Kathy immediately knew what it was and who it was from, even though it had no return address. Kathy tore the brown wrapping paper off to reveal another blue box. Nothing was said as they walked to Lisa's apartment. Each woman was lost in her own thoughts, wondering what was inside the box. When inside the apartment, Lisa asked, "Kathy, are you going to listen to the CD?" Kathy shook her head yes. She could not speak without crying. Lisa took the CD and put it in her player. Randy Travis' voice filled the room. "Suppose I called you up tonight and told you that I loved you. And suppose I said, I want to come back home. And suppose I cried and said, I think I finally learned my lesson. And I'm tired of spending all my time alone. If I told you that I realized you're all I ever wanted, and it's killing me to be so far away, would you tell me that you loved me too, and would we cry together? Or would you simply laugh at me and say, I told you so, oh I told you so. I told you someday you come crawling back and asking me to take you in. I told you so, but you had to go. Now I found somebody new, and you will never break my heart in two again." Kathy's heart broke again as it did that night in Lisa's apartment. Tom made it clear to her that he was done with her. He would never allow her back into his life again. For the first time in a long time, Kathy broke down into a full-blown crying jack. She let it all out. All her grief came flooding out. Oh, how she missed her former husband. She knew she had been a fool to give up what she had, just as Lisa told her when this first happened. She cursed her stupidity. Kathy quit her job at the insurance company soon after she received the box in the mail from Tom. She took a position as a front desk receptionist at a local doctor's office. The pay was not as good, but she did not have to suffer through the disgusted looks and the constant whispering of her co-workers. Kathy stayed with Lisa for 3 months. She rented a small condo for an elderly patient she met at the doctor's office. Her divorce from John was moving through the court system. She started receiving support payments from John through the court. This money combined with her new job was enough to pay the rent on her new place. Kathy was not idle in her quest to regain her life with Tom. She called him many times. He never answered the phone, so she left messages to call her back. She told him she was sorry for her actions and begged him to call back. He never did. That only made Kathy more determined. Kathy began sending letters to the Kensington address where Tom still lived. Emails were sent every few days. These were never answered either. Kathy and Lisa had plans to go out Friday night. It was decided that Kathy would pick Lisa up and they would get ready to go out at Kathy's new place. Kathy picked up Lisa at her home and drove to her new place. When they arrived at Kathy's apartment, they were surprised to see Tom's cousin Janice and Kathy's former co-worker Grace waiting in the parking lot. "What are they doing here?" Lisa wondered aloud. "I have no idea, but I don't like seeing Janice again, and what is Grace doing here with her?" puzzled Kathy. Lisa had an inkling of why they would be here. She was hiding something from Kathy. The girls exited the car and warily approached Janice and Grace. Janice waited for Kathy and Lisa to come near them before she spoke. "Hi, Kathy," opened Janice. "Grace and I would like to talk to you about something that involves all of us. Would you mind if we came inside and spoke in private?" Kathy was wary. She remembered the last time she spoke with Janice. She did not want a repeat of that confrontation. "What is this about Janice? I don't want any trouble." Kathy responded. "Why don't you leave her alone? Why do you need to open old wounds?" pleaded Lisa. Grace looked at Lisa and Kathy with sympathetic eyes before responding. "I would, Lisa, however, I think Kathy needs to know about this. Please, Kathy, can we go inside and speak privately?" Grace asked. Now thoroughly confused, Kathy looked at Lisa for some type of direction. Lisa nodded at Kathy as if saying, "Let's go inside and talk." With trepidation, Kathy responded, "Let's go inside." Once inside Kathy's small condo, the girls made some small talk, complimenting Kathy on her decorating. Settling down around the kitchen table, Grace finally got around to why she and Janice were there. Grace began, "Kathy, there is something I need to tell you, and it is not going to be something you want to hear. I know you have been sending letters and emails to Tom. I know about the telephone calls to two. What business is it of yours if I try to communicate with him? This is still a free country. If I want to call him, I will. He has never told me not to. If he did, I would stop. He does want you to stop. He is too polite to tell you. He is afraid you won't take it well." Grace informed Kathy. "Kathy," Janice interrupted, "please just listen to us. We don't want to make this harder on you. We know you don't know this. Tom and Grace are getting married next Saturday." Kathy was shocked. Janice could see her eyes tear up. If she wanted to speak, it seemed she was unable to. "Kathy, please don't call, email, or send letters to Tom. I am a jealous woman, and I will not look kindly upon another woman trying to contact my new husband. It's too bad you never knew the real meaning of a gift. It's lucky for me, though. I realized what it was the first time I heard when I fall in love on your CD player that day in the office," added Grace. Janice reached into her bag and took out a thin red box and handed it to Kathy. There was no malice in Janice's voice as she told Kathy, "Listen to the CD inside the box. I am truly sorry it came to this. We want you to know we did not come here to hurt you, but you needed to know." Kathy turned to Lisa as Janice and Grace left the condo and asked, "Did you know about this?" "Yes," Lisa replied guiltily. "I didn't know how to tell you. Grace told us a few weeks ago. I knew you were trying to get back with Tom. I knew it would hurt. I couldn't tell you. I knew it would hurt you too much." Kathy slid the CD into the slot on her machine. Kathy took another sip of wine and looked at the clock. It was 2:30 p.m. It had taken only 1.5 hours for her to remember the journey with her former husband. She looked at the red box sitting at the rear of the row of boxes. She picked up the box, took out the CD, and slipped it into the slot of the machine, just like she did the week prior. The Shirelles started singing the 1961 hit "Foolish Little Girl." "You broke his heart and made him cry. And he's been blue since then. Now he's found somebody new. And you want him back again. Foolish little girl, fickle little girl. You didn't want him when he wanted you. He's found another love. It's her he's dreaming of. And there's not a single thing that you can do." Kathy realized that Janice was right. There was nothing she could do about the mess she made of her life. She needed to stop trying to regain that which she had lost. It was her fault, of course. She knew that Tom and Grace might be walking back from the altar, now a married couple. Or maybe they were in the receiving line greeting guests. Whatever they were doing, she would not be thought of or missed. As she remembered, she finally realized what the gift truly was. It was something she had thrown away so casually, while Grace had understood it when she first heard "When I Fall in Love" that day in the office. She was sad it had taken her so long to understand. She finally understood. It was the most special of gifts, something she longed for now. The gift was his love. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.